Hey, it's John Hope Bryant. I've had a lot of questions, a lot of calls coming to me asking my opinion about folks wanting to come into Atlanta and picket Atlanta because of the recent um, vote on, want to call it voting rights by the Georgia legislature. Let me start by saying I think this is what the Georgia legislature did, and the governor signed was short sighted. I see this as nothing more than people being upset that they lost an election. Maybe they lost the election because they didn't get enough votes, period, or maybe they just lost because folks did not like the options that they presented before them, that they chose hope and togetherness and a future that does not blame your adversary. I'm sorry, doesn't look at the person on the other side as your adversary, and realize that even biblically, a house divided will not stand. And so, a strategy that blaming each other and shooting criticism of each other and harming each other is not going to win long term. It doesn't win internationally. It doesn't win in your family. Won't win here in America. And maybe that's as simple as that we chose a path forward. And by the way, it just so happens we've had more progress with the positive response of vaccines and other measures to normalize life in the last 55 days that we've had, almost in the last 55 plus weeks before that. So maybe that's should be just acknowledged as a failure and that it was legitimate. And let's just put that aside. Everybody tries to, prep up for the next election game day and see how you do. But that's not what happened. And people are emotional about it, and I understand that, but this is no place for emotions. So I really have just three things to say. One, whenever you make a decision that's emotional, you're going to lose. It's going to be the wrong decision. You never make any decision from an emotional place. Whatever that decision is, because you've got a lot of factors into it that don't include logic and maybe the right strategy or any strategy, you may end up with ready, fire, aim. So one, emotions will always be a disadvantage whenever you respond to anything because you're not responding, you're reacting. Number two, if there's an attempt to do anything, you should let local leaders here in Atlanta who are expert at this, which don't include me, by the way, I'm not an elected official, or in that space, you should consult with them on what they believe the best strategy is. And Dr. King and my mentor, Andrew Young, always had a strategy. They spent weeks and sometimes months mapping out a strategy, and ultimately they wanted that strategy actually even to be win-win for those that were trying to even repress them. The philosophy basically was talk without being offensive, listen without being defensive, and always leave even your adversary with their dignity, because if you don't, they'll spend the rest of their life trying to make you miserable, and they will never accept even the most legitimate win. So the underdog has to be more, not dignified, but really embody more truth than those who are, low frequency and taking cheap shots. It doesn't sound right, but it has worked over really centuries. And it worked in the civil rights movement. And so being thoughtful, not emotional, and having a strategy and a plan and trying to figure out whether you can do this in a way where everybody feels some sense that they weren't completely gutted in the process, even when the other party's not playing fair, is probably a better approach. But let me say this: I should have probably led this, which I call the math of the matter. Whatever is done needs to be done thoughtfully, because Atlanta is the 10th largest economy in the United States. It is last time I checked, about the 31st largest economy in the world. So it's almost as big as Norway, where my friend runs that country, Crown Prince Haakon. Well, his family does. Norway is a very wealthy country. The city of Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, is almost as large as Norway as an economy. We're larger than Israel as an economy, larger than, trying to think of some of the other, United Arab Emirates. Oh my God, there's so many, South Africa. There's so many economies that would surprise you. Atlanta is larger than those economies. So if someone hurts Atlanta and it does it unthoughtfully, you're actually not hurting Georgia. If the problem is Georgia, you're actually hurting Atlanta. And Atlanta is, of course, the most diverse city in the South, the only international city in the South. And we have won because people that really the color here is green. And a lot of the people who are on the up from nothing story look like me. So it just needs to be very thoughtfully done so we don't actually win battles and lose wars. Or win the war and not win the battle at all, because we didn't think about it and we didn't strategize. Ambassador Andrew Young had this great quote. And I hope I get this right. He said that power is like money in the bank. It is most powerful when you leave it there. If you pull it out, you better make sure that you can swing the appropriate big bat. But the threat oftentimes is more powerful than the use if you use it intelligently. Power is oftentimes, again, most powerful, like money, when you leave it where it is and let it sort of work for you versus working it. But when you get emotional, you want to lean in, and I understand those emotions. I understand those frustrations. Many times I want to be emotional about a lot of things, but I've had to learn to restrain myself, and I've had to learn to be thoughtful about things, and I've had to learn to take the higher road. This one's tough. I get that, and there's no easy answers. There is one positive one though. There's a piece of legislation that is national legislation named after John Lewis. That is an overarching piece of legislation for all voting rights, freedoms. That, if passed, could solve a lot of problems and resolve a lot of things in one nice, elegant vote if it passed and was enacted in the law, named after John Lewis, who encouraged all of us to get into some good trouble. To quote my friend Chelsea Clinton, let's all get caught trying to do good. This is not an easy one. This is not something where you wave a wand and the problem solved. This is complicated because now people have made it complicated. And some folks are just not playing fair. But, I'm hopeful, and not just because my name is John Hope Bryant. I hope this has been helpful. At the very least, you learn something else about Atlanta, that we're one of the 35th largest economies in the entire world, and the 10th largest economy in the United States. Did you know that? Pretty cool. All right. Love and light. John Hope Bryant. I'm out. Stay positive, stay hopeful, and check with our local leaders and get a sense for what they want to do and how they want to do it.